Hey, this is Josh for Growlink, and in today's walkthrough we'll be going over how to make a sensor trigger that engages a cooling stage on an HVAC unit when it's set up as a dry contact. A dry contact is just sourcing voltage from the unit that gets passed back towards the unit when that relay is engaged. In those kind of setups, directly controlling an output on the controller turns the HVAC unit on and off. To make this sensor trigger to turn on that HVAC unit's cooling stage and off based on the temperature in the room, we'll need to make a sensor trigger on a specific controller. We'll start by logging into Portal 2.0, selecting the controller that we want to make it on. In this example, we only have a single controller, so we're going to go to this example controller here. Once at the dashboard, we're going to hit the Rules section up at the top of the page. In the Rules subpage, we're going to click the default folder and the default rule group to make this rule in. Since we want this output to turn on and off based on the sensor data within the room, we're going to use a sensor trigger by clicking the Sensor Triggers tab and hitting Add Sensor Trigger. In the pop-up that follows, we're going to put in a display name so we can easily identify this rule. Such as example cooling stage rule. Next, we're going to select a time of day. We have a couple of different options here: all day, day only, night only, and custom time. In this case, we're going to choose all day, so that anytime the room gets above some certain value, it engages the cooling stage of the HVAC unit. Next, we want to choose what sensor we want to associate with the activity of this rule. In this case, we want to look at the room temperature, so it's able to turn on based on the canopy of the plants. Next, we want to choose what device we want to turn on. Here we can see we have 4 outputs total. One is the first cooling stage of a unit, the second cooling stage of the unit, and then the 2 heating stages of the unit. In this case, we're just going to select the first cooling stage. As for the next value, determining if the set point is dynamic or static, static is the most straightforward way to set up these rules, as it will consistently trigger at one specific value and turn off at a specific value. Next, we want to specify the value at which we want this cooling stage to turn on, and in this case we can specify, say, 80 degrees. Next, we want to specify the deadband around this value, and we can specify a deadband of, say, 2 degrees. Next, we want to specify the activation point. Since this is engaging the cooling stage of an HVAC unit, we would want to use the above set point, so that as the temperature goes above a specified value, it turns on this cooling stage, and when it goes below a specified value, it turns off this cooling stage. Here you can see with this data populated that there's a rule logic summary sentence that populates, as well as a graph displaying the logic attempting to be employed. In this case, the cooling stage will get turned on for at least 2 minutes when the room temperature exceeds 82 degrees Fahrenheit and switched off when it returns to 78 degrees Fahrenheit. It's important to note that when devices are set up as an air conditioner or a heater, that the minimum runtime advanced sensor option it's set to 2 minutes, and this is set that way to prevent the compressor on the unit from short cycling. This ensures the unit always runs for at least 2 minutes to prevent that short cycling. And if you mouse over this icon, it'll explain exactly why it's set that runtime. With these values set in place, all the one needs to do is hit the Add Trigger button, followed by updating the controller with this newly configured rule. That new rule will get pushed down to the controller from our device cloud. This concludes how you would make a sensor trigger to turn on the cooling stage of an HVAC unit when it's set up as a dry contact within Growlink Portal 2.0.